Welcome to another episode of Hidden Stories Healed Now. Now, you know, we always talk about how can we share those hidden secrets, even when it comes to things about yourself and career. Today, we have a special guest, Dr. Tashana Thompson. And we all know her as that brand strategist that can take you from A to Z. And how do I know? Because she's my strategist. I love working with Dr. Thompson. But today we're going to talk a little bit about branding. You know, we are all in this place where we're trying to be our personal brand, but we may also have a company brand, because whether we like it or not, when you work for someone else, you carry that brand with you. And others get to know you as you work at other places. But we're going to talk about, how do you separate the two? What does that look like? And what are the hidden things that people don't talk about that can help you? So join me in welcoming Tashana to the stage. Welcome.
Hey, pretty lady.
It's great to see you.
Always, always.
So let's talk a little bit about branding.
Yeah.
And you know, how I want to be my personal brand.
Right.
And I want to be authentic.
Right.
And I want people to know who I am.
Right.
But if I'm working for a company
Mhm.
and I'm carrying that as well, what do I do?
Oh, that's a loaded question, right? So I think that, first of all, let's talk about personal brands
Okay.
and what it is and what it isn't.
Okay.
So it isn't a logo. You know, everybody thinks, whether they're working for someone or not, that I got to get my own business card, into my own logo, my own website. Those are things that help us to convey a brand. Those are assets to a brand. They are not a brand. A brand is the personality of your business or yourself, you know, really your personality and how you come across as an individual, as a businesswoman. That is a brand. What are you known for? When you're not in the room, what are people saying? That is the brand. So just making that distinction for the audience, I think, is important.
Okay. So, all right. So when I think about what do people say about me when I'm outside of the room and they're thinking about my personality? Okay, that's my personal brand.
Right.
Whether I work for somebody else
Or not. Yes.
it's always who I am portraying.
Absolutely. It's always about who you are and how much of that you're willing to share. So, for instance, if you are an employee you have been a senior level executive at a very large corporation, yes, you many times button up and stand up a little straighter as a representative of that particular brand. But what are you bringing to the audience, to your team members, to those that you're in front of, that showcase who you really are, right? So what are your unique skills and talents? What is your unique value proposition that makes you stand out from the organization? And I think that, you know, with the Great Resignation, like we were talking about earlier, so many people are trying to find that healthy balance between, I love people. I care about, you know, ABC cause, but I also am a technology executive, right? How do I make those two things relevant and something that people really care about? And the way to do that is really sharing your heart with people.
Sharing your heart.
Sharing your personality, your heart. What makes your heart sing? Because I guarantee you that people remember you for that when you go to the next organization versus, you know, so much what the last organization was. They remember you, how you showed up. Oh, she's a hard worker. I know that she's going to be on time. I know that she has my best interest at heart. I know that she's going to advocate for me.
So is it really about Is it really that it's not what you do, but how you make people feel?
Oh, absolutely. It's my favorite quote by Maya Angelou.
That's right.
It is in my footer, in my signature right this moment. People will forget what you said, what you've done. They will never forget how you've made them feel.
So let's talk a little bit about that as we even talk about the Great Resignation, because one of the things is that, to me, it feels like that's all around culture.
Yeah.
We're talking about how people fit in. We're talking about culture of how we're getting others to mesh with what I want to do, what's important to me, what the company stands for, etc.
Right.
So that's a component of branding, correct?
Absolutely, because people are leaving organizations in the masses because their personal brand no longer aligns with the organizations that they're working for. So if you have to go too far out of yourself to be whatever at your job, it's not going to be congruent for very long anyway. We can only fake it for so long.
You know, that fits into one of my philosophies. I always say that when you go to a job, you should fit that job 80%. 20% of it should only be what you're working to gain for your growth, refine. Because otherwise you're going to get up and say, why am I going to work? I got to fight to be somebody who I'm not.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And as I'm fighting to be someone that I'm not working the 80% of my passion, of where I'm comfortable. Everybody has to grow. So nobody's 100%. We all have something to grow and to work on.
Right.
But, you know, it's about working that passion and working that area, you know, that makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
And so I agree with you that on this brand thing, that is a lot of what's happening with the Great Resignation, what's happening with individuals as they're trying to get more comfortable with work and who they are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure you probably get people saying, okay, I have a personal brand, but I'm now wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So we're going to take a station break. And we come back. I'd really like to understand, is that intermingled as one? How do you keep your business, I am a business name, and then yourself, but keep the identities separate but together?
Yeah.
In terms of what that looks like.
Right.
Because it feels as though, you know, when you say the name of my company is X, you know, when you're going to introduce yourself, you're introducing yourself as, you know, the CEO of X.
Right.
Right. But then it's about, well, that person, but I also want to be known that this person can go and do this on their own.
Absolutely.
This person can go and do that.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about that when we
Love
come
it.
back. We're going to take a station break. We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
Welcome back. So as we were talking before the station break, we were talking about if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We all know that there's different kinds of entrepreneurships. There's solopreneur,
Right.
there's, you know, having businesses, etc.
Right.
And when you're a solopreneur, it's a little easier if you're just using your name, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to work something, it's me.
Yes.
So yes, the brand is all about, you know, my quality, my efforts, you know, who I am, what I stand for, etc.
Right.
But then when you get ready to grow and you go, okay, I'm going to become a real business. And I'm going to get a business name and I'm going to get a business logo and I'm going to make that happen. But you're still a person.
Yes.
So help me understand, how do you work that?
Yeah, it's sometimes challenging, especially, you know, like you and I, when we were starting out, it was just us, right? We're solo consultants who have built teams. So it's a very fine line, but I will give one piece of advice, before we jump too far into that. I always recommend that people brand themselves first, because you can always go back and tell the story of the company. It's harder to come back and flip it. I'll give you an example. I have a company, Beyond Business Solutions, been in business for 15 years. No matter how much I put that name out there, the fact that I'm the CEO, and for many years I was, in that business with just me and one other person, they know Tashana. Tashana's the face of that business. Regardless if I put Tashana's name on the billboard or not, that's what they know, right? So as you grow, you have to be able to tell that brand story of, hey, yes, I built this business. I started in 2007 and, and we've gone and we've grown and now we're here. We have 12 employees and we're providing these services and all these competencies. You tell it through brand story. That's what makes the difference. And we have several brand stories. You've written a book, you know this, right? That you have stories for each segment of your career, right? So I can think about a time when I had a business partner and I have a story from that segment of my business. And you're telling the story of the evolution of the business, right? And, how you and I came to work together, right? How you built your team, those different things. And also, I tell people all the time, something I'm really proud about. I was sharing in my newsletter the other day, I have rebuilt my business from 2017 when I was bringing home pennies, less than $30,000 a year I put in my pocket in my household, to a multiple six-figure business since I've had my daughter. And that's something I'm really proud about because it shows the distinction and it's a brand story, right? People get excited about that. Oh, multiple? You're pushing seven figures? And, we can start to tell those different stories that captivate our audiences and they can go along that journey with us. So you don't ever lose yourself trying to be or appear to be larger than we are. There is a blessing in every step of our journey. Yes. Every single step of our journey of entrepreneurship. And we have to be willing to tell those stories.
It's interesting you say that. There are a lot of people that are afraid to tell stories.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're afraid to tell stories because of perception.
Absolutely.
They're afraid to tell stories because of the fear of, well, if I tell them I can't do this, nobody's going to give me the business. Right. But I think there's a large play for authenticity.
Absolutely.
And I think authenticity allows people to know you're human too. It's kind of like I think about when we go to work. When you work in a company and you see the president of the company come down, everybody goes, oh, there's the president, the president, the president. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're on the elevator with me. Newsflash, he puts on his pants one leg at a time, just like you do.
Absolutely.
Right? And he's got problems just like you do.
Absolutely.
He's just talking about higher level things about the company.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean he doesn't have problems he has to deal with at home or family, because none of us are immune to that.
No.
Right?
Not at all.
So it's one of those things where somehow or another we've got to become more about, I'm willing to share my testimony from point A to point B, so people can enjoy that journey with me.
Absolutely. And I've been talking to my audience a whole lot lately about vulnerability. And how do we establish human connection? Brene Brown, has a whole body of work, a whole legacy built around this that, I would equate personal brand really about your ability to tell brand story and your ability to be vulnerable with your audiences and yourself first. And that doesn't mean you have to tell every single nuance of your life, right? Do what feels right to you, but you can't get in front of people and lie. I'm not going to tell you that I don't have mommy guilt and staff issues. Like I sat in this chair many a time asking for advice on different challenges, right? I'm not going to pretend that I don't have any challenges and be so concerned with you not wanting to do business with me because I'm being vulnerable and saying, yeah, Vicki, I ain't got that part quite figured out yet. Of course you can't do that with everybody, but you have to find windows of that, or else we are seeing a mental health crisis like none other in this country because people are sick of pretending.
And pretending is a very key word. We do a lot of facade. We do a lot of, well, I got to make myself bigger than I am. I got to do more than what I really am. I gotta show that so that they'll see value.
Yeah.
And so it's like, to me, value and your brand comes through what you deliver. But you made a key point that I really want the audience to hear. It's how you made them feel through the delivery.
Absolutely.
how you made them feel through the delivery.
Yeah.
Because people see value when you make them feel good.
Absolutely.
People see value when you're delivering,
Absolutely.
right? So it's not just about doing the task. How did I make you feel when I did
Absolutely.
that?
It's all about emotion.
And so there it is.
It's all about emotion.
It's all about emotion.
You know, I'm a marketer. And I'm a relationship marketer. And that's what it's about. How do we tap into human emotion? How do we connect with human beings? How can I get you to know, like, and trust me enough to want to do business with me? Like, that's the end all be of it, right? That's it. And secondly, I will add to that, people give you a lot more grace when they know your hearts.
Did you hear that, audience? People will give you a lot more grace when they know your heart. We're going to take a station break. When we come back, we're going to see if we have a question or a comment from the audience. We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
So let's see if we have a question from the audience or a comment.
Yes, I have a question. The field I'm in, I do hunger. I address hunger on a countywide basis. Mm-hmm. But before I moved into this position, I had my own business where I did emergency food kits for people in need.
Right.
How do you avoid a conflict of interest?
I think it's about telling that story, right? We're talking a lot about story. So telling about the evolution. Hey, this is who I am. I'm passionate about feeding the hungry. I've had this organization, and now I've left this to do this. Or now in conjunction with this, I'm doing this, right? So really telling the story, being honest. Don't leave it to people to have to figure out and make assumptions. That's where the conflict comes in, right? So really being clear and concise. Hey, this is my passion. I've done this body of work, and now I'm doing this.
You know, it's interesting as we talk about how we want to expand our business, mm-hmm. you know, and what we want to do as we want to grow and we want to develop, and we think about what's that next big thing I can do? You know, how is the market changing? How are things happening? And how do I make that change?
Right.
You know, as I'm continuing to move forward. So I want to get a little bit more about stories, because you said something that really intrigued me. Mm-hmm. And you talked about, in terms of the story, that we tell the evolution. Mm-hmm. Is it a long thing of I started here and then I did this, then I did this and did this, like a resume? Is it highlights? How do you know really what to say? Yeah. You know, that's the problem is, it's like, what do people really want to hear?
Yeah. It depends on who you're talking to. You know, gauging your audience, reading the room. And really knowing your target audience and knowing, you know, if you're still an executive in a business, what is your next position and what qualities are they looking for that you can highlight within your own resume. So I say, you know, I have about 5 different brand stories that I could tell at any given moment, and you probably have 20. Right. But knowing the audience and knowing what is going to captivate their hearts and what's going to move them. So if I know that I'm in a room of entrepreneurs who are looking to cross over their first 6 figures or looking to double revenue, I know I have a story that's going to excite them. I know I have some practical marketing tips that I can share to get them to the next level. So who are you talking to? Am I talking to a mommy? Am I talking to entrepreneurs? Am I talking to a corporation that is looking to move their business to the next level because they don't have it figured out either? The larger businesses that I work with, I'm coming to find that, you know, I can be vulnerable and say, sometimes I get a little intimidated when I go and work with these multi-million-dollar businesses. And I'm used to working with women who, you know, are doing $250,000 in their businesses, right? And what I've learned that none of us know it all. And we all need one another. And what I bring to the table is unique and valuable. At any table that I choose to pull up my chair,
Okay.
you know? And we have to have that type of humble bravado in sharing, I have something to add to this space. You know, and getting on calls where there's teams of massive marketing people and y'all didn't think of this. But that's the case because you're needed.
Mm-hmm.
You're needed.
So I'm going to ask one question
Yeah.
because I have been told, you know, I remember when I started out in marketing,
Mhm.
oh, you got to be known for one thing. You can only do one thing. You can't do multiple things. You got to be known for one thing. You can confuse an audience. You can change your brand, blah, 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 blah. You hear this all the time.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes and no. So my first thought is no, because we're not one-trick ponies. That is the old school methodology and rule of thinking. However, you can't tell the whole story and tell 15 business stories in one place. So we have to break it down in digestible pieces for people. We know what their attention spans are like, right? So being able to tell a clear, concise story in one piece of marketing collateral or on one site or whatever the case may be, or on one speech, you know, it's a lot easier if people can hear you talk. They can understand it a little bit better. But if they're reading some collateral, they can get lost in the, you know, in a 20-year story, right? So yes and no, but we are not one-trick ponies. And I teach women that you are multidimensional and you can bring your whole self, like you taught me, to every situation that you come into. So yes, but no.
Okay. But you know that it's just interesting because,
Yeah.
you know, people want to hear one message and I get it. If I'm talking to one person, I can sell one product. If I'm talking to another person, I can sell another product.
For sure.
And that we kind of think about. But when
Right.
you do things that are totally different,
Yes.
you know, but you're passionate about all of it,
Yeah.
right? But it's something that I have the skill sets to do or the competencies to do or the passion to do, you know, and I don't want to be one-dimensional and limited in what I can do.
And that's why, you know, personal brand sites are so important because they can tell a whole story of all the things that Vicki loves. Whereas you have a corporate site that's talking about your corporation, that has a specific audience and they care about a specific set of competencies, right? So we don't want to get them lost in the minutia. But the people that come to you that want to know the fullness of you, oh, we got somewhere for them to go. Right? Right.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So can you all thank my guest, Dr. Tashana Thompson, for joining us today?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Hidden Stories Healed Now, where we give all the hidden secrets to provide you hope and joy. See you next time.